Hi, my name's Nina. I am a Swiftie with an English degree, and I am here to do the thing that we have talked about doing over and over again for months. We are going to deep read the prophecy today, and we are going to talk about how the prophecy is completely different than everything else on the Tortured Poets Department and the anthology. The thesis statement, essentially, of the Tortured Poets Department gets thrown on its head with the prophecy and the existence of it, so we have to talk about it. I also think the prophecy is likely Taylor Swift's most revealing song and probably her most personal song. Prophecy at its core is a song that asks the question, what happens if you get everything you ever wanted, except the thing that you wanted most, which in this song appears to be love? That is the question that is essentially asked with the prophecy, and we see Taylor in this song grapple with this realization that she may have money, she may have everything that outwardly she would want, but this prophecy, this reoccurring pattern of losing the love that she wants keeps happening. So at some point, you start to ask the question, is it me? Is this a prophecy that is against me? And remember, this is not the first time that we have seen Taylor kind of refer to herself as being the problem. Most notably in Anti-Hero, she literally says, "It's me. Hi, I'm the problem, it's me," and then follows those lyrics up with, "I'll stare directly at the sun, but never in the mirror." And by reflecting herself as an anti-hero itself, she kind of shows herself as both the hero of her story, but also the villain of her story. Anti-heroes are often seen as very morally gray in fiction, so it's very interesting that she is toying with this idea. That is what the prophecy is at its core, and the interesting thing about it, and what I really want to talk about today, is how different the prophecy is from every other track on the Tortured Poets Department. With the rest of the Tortured Poets Department, we see a Taylor who is referencing a love that was undeniable, a flame that was ever burning, this expected thing that was going to appear and happen and come to fruition eventually. And then in the prophecy, we see the outcome of that, the realization that what you thought was going to be forever didn't work out and that it happened again. Let's talk about it because there is so much here. I know we all know what happened in 2023, and we've talked about on this channel a lot the relationship that Taylor Swift had with Maddie Healy in between the time period that she broke up with Joe during the Eras tour back in 2023. I know that we know what happened with that, but I really, from my viewpoint of the Tortured Poets Department, I see a lot lyrically that points to the idea that she was wanting to keep this light on for this person that she expected to be her forever person. It's like she was with other people, but she always kept that light on in the back of her head, thinking like this was a possibility. And we see examples of this in songs like Peter, where she says, "And I won't confess that I waited, but I let the lamp burn. As the men masqueraded, I hoped you'd return." We also see examples of this in the lyrics of Cardigan, where she refers to this person coming back to her and she says, "I knew you'd miss me once the thrill expired and you'd be standing in my front porch light." This is just a joke, but part of me honestly wonders if they had made like some pact, you know, like how people will joke about making like this pact with someone like, oh, if we are both still single when we are 33, we will get together and we will date. And like part of me just like pictures this Taylor who like really had a secret crush on Maddie Healy at the time, and she was like, yes, we will date when we are 33, and she really thought that it was going to work, and then he was Maddie Healy and it didn't work out again. And that is what gives us the prophecy. That is the type of pain and the type of anchor that gives us a song that literally questions if God himself is smiting her. That is where we get the prophecy, and that is where we begin with it. But I've always found it so incredibly interesting how the Tortured Poets Department, throughout the majority of it, is using this idea of fate as a longing for another person and as this possibility that you are like literally fated to be with another person. And then with the prophecy, the idea of fate gets turned on its head, and we have Taylor, assumedly being the writer, getting punished and actually like fulfilling this prophecy of once again never being able to have the love that she wants. I think it's so interesting. Let's look at some examples in the Tortured Poets Department where we see this fate used in that different way, which is how it's used for the majority of the album. In Guilty as Sin, Taylor Swift states, "They don't know how you've haunted me so stunningly, I choose you and me religiously." Also in Guilty as Sin, she states, "If it's make-believe, why does it feel like a vow we'll both uphold somehow?" In Fresh Out the Slammer, she states, "To the house where you still wait up and that porch light gleams," once again using that light reference, which I think almost kind of points like a Gatsby-ish like longing, like a light that you're forever like keeping a light on essentially to find the way home. Then in Peter, She says, once again, talking about this idea of fate and of timing, she says, the goddess of timing once found us beguiling. She said she was trying. Peter, was she lying? This is just like a small example of the Tortured Poets department and how it seems like she is talking about a specific person and talking about almost like this fate, symbolism, this light being left on for them. And then the prophecy, we have the other side of that where she herself is feeling the burn of fate and questioning if what she wants is ever going to be attainable because of also getting what she wants. It's so interesting. Let's talk about the prophecy because there's so much here. Musically, I'm obsessed with the prophecy because some of my most favorite songs by Taylor Swift are the ones where she uses kind of like the witchy metaphors and she uses kind of like the witchy vibes, for lack of a better term. In the prophecy, it's like up to a 10, and I love how it starts. The way that the music is so hectic, it itself feels like you are like pacing a room and going back and forth, and you are thinking about all the things that you have done wrong and all of the choices that you made and all of the things that you could have done differently that you didn't. And I just see that whenever I listen to the prophecy, as soon as I hear that music come on, I just can picture this person wanting answers, looking to anything that they can look for to try to find out where they went wrong and how they can fix the prophecy and how they can stop this from happening over and over and over. If I were to put the song on the timeline, I would picture that it was written sometime in June or July of 2023 is my best guess. Of course, it is a guesstimate, but just being so close to the aftermath of the ending of what you thought could have been this potential happy ending for you, I think that that would have been the time period and the moment when a song like The Prophecy, when you are still angry and you are still struggling to accept what is happening, that is when a song like this would be born. If you are new to my channel and you're new to diving into things like this, hi, my name's Nina. I am a chronically online millennial. I love to deep dive lyrics. I never know when to leave well enough alone. I like to put lyrics on a timeline with the lore and better look at them all. And also I like to discuss other millennial things and other things with pop culture. If you are into things like that, don't forget to like and subscribe. I definitely appreciate it. And the song starts with, hand on the throttle, thought I caught lightning in a bottle, oh, but it's gone again. And in this first part of the stanza, I think that it's very interesting that she states that she has her hand on the throttle, which I actually looked it up. The definition for a throttle is a device controlling the flow of fuel or power to an engine. So in this depiction, in this part of the verse, she is saying that she has her hand on the throttle, thought I caught lightning in a bottle, oh, but it's gone again. So I think that's interesting imagery that she is depicting the collection of this lightning actually as like being controllable. It's almost like she's trying to capture something in a bottle and control the flow of it at the same time. So it's an interesting metaphor. I think the point of this metaphor is kind of the fact that it's not going to work, right? Because you can have your hand on the throttle and you can be controlling it and you can try to capture lightning in a bottle. But what are the chances that you're actually going to be able to capture lightning in a bottle and make it last, right? So I think that that is just kind of like part of the metaphor the metaphor itself wouldn't last. It's not, you're not going to be able to capture lightning in a bottle like that. I am always here when Taylor Swift starts throwing in religious metaphor. I am here for it. So with the next part of this verse, we have right off the bat, and it was written, I got cursed like Eve got bitten. Oh, was it punishment? And I know that there has been so much talk about this metaphor in the song. I know that people have talked about it and discussed about the fact that Eve was never actually bitten by the snake, that is incorrect, and how that is what Taylor is commenting on here. I actually view it a little bit differently, and I have to start this explanation by stating that I do have a background of having some church hurt. You know, I grew up Southern Baptist and do not consider myself to be Southern Baptist today, but when I view this, I view it a little bit differently. First of all, we cannot overlook the importance of the fact that Taylor chose to use the verbiage, and it was written. Biblically, from a biblical perspective, and it was written, whenever you see the verbiage like that in the Bible, they are not referring to what a human says. They are referring specifically to something that God said. So when you see, and it was written, it is like a holy affirmation to you. It is like something that has to be done because it was written by God themselves. So when she says, and it was written, I got cursed like Eve got bitten, she is saying that God himself ordained that to be so, and it was written, which is what people say when it comes directly from God. That is what she is saying, and I love it. When I see the rest of this part of the stanza where she says, and it was written, I got cursed like Eve got bitten. Oh, was it punishment? I take from this, from my viewpoint of the origin story in the Bible, to be a little bit differently than how other people view it. And yes, like, it's 100% true. Eve did not get bitten by the snake, but Eve kind of got bitten by the world because people like to misremember the story in the biblical Genesis origin story. Yes, it is correct that the serpent is speaking to Eve, and they do discuss the tree of good and knowledge, and he does encourage her to eat from the tree and essentially says that it is good, and Eve does listen to the snake. But what people like to forget when they refer to the origin story and they remember it and they have art about it is the fact that Adam was right beside Eve the entire time. But who got the fallout for everything? Eve. It was Eve who got the fallout, despite the fact that Adam was standing right beside Eve the entire time, despite the fact that Adam heard what the snake was talking to her about, despite the fact that Adam accepted the fruit of the tree that he actually was told was bad by God, right? Because we also have to remember that Eve had not been created yet when that ordinance was actually given to Adam. She was told about it later on, we infer, because she knew about the rule, but she had not been created yet when God actually gave it to her. So think about it from that perspective, right? The actual creation story is Adam and Eve in a garden. They are talking to the snake in the tree, and the art that you're going to see depicting this moment from Genesis is going to depict Eve with the serpent. And Adam's not there, but in the text, Adam was always there. It's just the world forgets the fact that Adam was there when Eve was manipulated by the serpent. They don't talk about it. They just want to essentially say that it's Eve's fault. So she also gave some to her husband who was with her, and he ate it. So I just have always felt like the Genesis story and the fact that, you know, if you look at Genesis after this, like when God finds out what happened, he curses Eve, inflicts child pain on her, because I guess child pain wasn't going to be a thing before then, according to the Bible. I don't know that Adam, sure enough, did tell God that he was with Eve when all of this went down, and it was all a big misunderstanding, and they believed the serpent together, right? That's what Adam did. No. Adam, when God got upset and found out that they had eaten from the tree of good and knowledge, Adam said, the woman you put here with me, she gave me some fruit from the tree and I ate it. So Adam immediately threw Eve under the bus, despite the fact that he was standing beside her, I believe, probably the entire time. Having said that, I got cursed like Eve got bitten a little bit differently, because I see it as just an example of women getting remembered as the problem. And I really think her reasoning for referencing Eve specifically is because, for one, she uses many biblical references throughout the Tortured Poets department. But for two, if you reference Eve because she is part of the creation story, she herself, in a way, represents all women. And you can see that that curse that was placed on women literally began with Eve. And if you look at Eve's story from Eve seeking knowledge and from seeking information from the tree of knowledge, then in a way, Taylor's story also would be her seeking a type of knowledge as well, because she would be seeking if this relationship that she had dreamt about and thought could have been fated was truth, or if it was a lie. And I also did just want to point out, too, that we have these biblical references here in the prophecy, and earlier in the Tortured Poets department, we had biblical references in Guilty as Sin. What if I roll the stone away? They're going to crucify me anyway. So I think that it's interesting that we also have that with the prophecy, where it's kind of like the fallout of this situation, like the biblical references are referencing again. And I get the feeling that she has a lot of anger as well at this time period with the prophecy. And with these biblical references, you know, we also had that moment in The Smallest Man where she says, I would have died for your sins. Instead, I just died inside. And here we have this moment where she is questioning, is she being punished, like, for trusting you? Is she being punished for believing that, like, love could be real? How do you break this prophecy? And we see this metaphor continuing with this song. Pat around when I get home. I guess a lesser woman would have lost hope. A greater woman wouldn't beg. but I looked to the sky and said. And here I think that she's just referencing the fact that, like, to pat around, I think is a very interesting use of that phrase. But I would see that as just like she's going around barefoot, right? Like, it's not that serious. Like, she is just home in pain, right? Because she is sad. I guess a lesser woman wouldn't beg, but I look to the sky and said. So she is looking up to the sky, right? I believe previously, and it was written, she's essentially looking up to the sky, to God, to beg for this outcome to change because she is tired of this prophecy existing. She is tired of believing that she's finally found the one until it's ripped away from her over and over and over again. And here we get the chorus with, please, I've been on my knees, change the prophecy. Don't want money, just someone who wants my company. Let it once be me. Who do I have to speak to about if they can redo the prophecy? And I think that this is so interesting, this chorus where she's just saying, like, I have been on my knees. I am begging for this to change. Don't want money, just someone who wants my company. And I know that when we think of Taylor Swift, I mean, she is a billionaire. She has all the money in the world that she could ever want. And here she is saying, don't want money, just someone who wants my company. And isn't that so sad? That is so sad. She says in the chorus, she continues with, let it once be me. Who do I have to speak to about if they can redo the prophecy? And inherently with this, I would think that the person that she has to speak to is God, which is why it was written and why she's been on her knees begging for this prophecy to be over. And I don't know, obviously I don't think that she actually thinks that there is a prophecy like placed on her where she is going to suffer from not having love for the rest of her life, but I do think that this idea, and I think that these metaphors and the depiction of this like almost like witchy atmosphere where this person is pacing back and forth and they're just trying to figure out how to make their life what they actually want it, I think it's beautiful, I think it's wonderful, and I think it's beautifully executed with the song. And as we continue to discuss the prophecy, I think it's important that we actually understand and define what a prophecy is. A prophecy is an inspired utterance of a prophet viewed as a revelation of divine will or a prediction of the future made under divine inspiration. And as we have discussed with all of these biblical references in the prophecy and in the tortured poets department in general, think about also how a prophecy just in general is often found in biblical mentions and other mentions of religious text. I think it's interesting that Taylor is kind of really hitting the nail on the head with these religious metaphors if we just pay attention to them. And here is where we get even more witchy elements with the song, where she continues with the next verse and says, cards on the table, mine play out like fools in a fable. Oh, it was sinking in. And here I immediately am drawn to the depiction of a tarot card reading because she says here, cards on the table, which takes me to tarot cards, mine play out like fools in a fable. And as we likely know, there is a specific tarot card that depicts the fool, and that is actually a specific card that is used for new beginnings. So when you have like the fool pulled, that would represent a new beginning for you or some other things. With tarot, it kind of just depends on what other cards are placed on the tarot table at the time and they're laid out, but people will read into that. So I think that that is very interesting that she's literally depicting tarot card reading as part of this, which is a very witchy activity, but also it's something that is meant to be something that actually can potentially tell your future. I know people will, read their tarot cards every day just to see how their day is going to be. Very interesting to see that metaphor of the tarot card reading and the being able to like predict your fortune with this song talking about the prophecy. And I think this reflection where she says it was sinking in is just her seeing how the cards are playing out and having the realization that what she is seeing is actually happening. And it's like the cards on the table are reaffirming what she is coming to know. And she continues with, slow is the quicksand, poison blood from the wound of the pricked hand. Oh, still I dream of him. And first of all, I love the depiction here where she says slow is the quicksand, because whenever I see, like, for one, I just think it's a beautiful line. It's a beautiful metaphor. It's a beautiful depiction and something that we can actually see visually. But to me, it gives me the idea that you are too into something before you can even get out of it, right? It's like the quicksand moves so slowly that you can be in too deep before you even realize that you are falling. I think that that is kind of the thing that we're seeing with the depiction there of slow is the quicksand. It's like you can't get out of this. It's like you have your cards on the table, you're trying to find your way out, you're looking at what your potential futures are, but you are stuck. I could also see this being used to depict the fact that she is not over him yet, right? Because it continues with poison blood from the wound of the pricked hand. Oh, still I dream of him, which to me points to like you're not quite over the thing that you've lost yet. And we can see the poison blood from the wound of the pricked hand, I think also potentially has very witchy. And specifically the poison blood from the wound of the pricked hand, I think is a pretty witchy metaphor. I know that there's an example of this in practical magic. That's the only one that's coming to my head right now is like popular culture. But there is such a thing that people will do in like movies and stuff where they'll make like a blood pact or like a blood promise. And you see that like in that movie as well, where they like actually both like prick their fingers and like shake their hands kind of like as making like a blood promise. I think that this is possibly what's being referred to here with this metaphor, because she's essentially saying that the poison blood came from the wound of the pricked hand. So like essentially saying like even that promise was broken because the blood itself was poison, but she can't get over it. But still, she dreams of him, even though she knows that it was a lie, even though she knows that the blood was poison, even though she knows that she shouldn't. Still, I dream of him. And then again, we have the chorus, please, I've been on my knees. Change the prophecy. Don't want money, just someone who wants my company. Please, let it once be me. Who do I have to speak to about if they can redo the prophecy? And this bridge, this is another one. Okay, this is another moment where I just feel like we're pacing across the room. You know, like we're around this table. We're trying to figure out what's happening. It's almost like you're in like a war room is what I picture with this music and how it makes me feel. Like I feel like we're pacing and we're trying to figure out exactly where we went wrong in all aspects of our life. And it continues here with... And I sound like an infant, feeling like the very last drops of an ink pen. A greater woman stays cool, but I howl like a wolf at the moon. And I love the metaphor that is in this bridge. I love how she continues to show us these witchy metaphors and this witchy imagery. The writing here, feeling like the very last drops of an ink pen. It gives me chills, like seriously, like I am obsessed. I'm obsessed with all of these witchy songs, but just imagine that, right? Like feeling like the very last drops of an ink pen. You know, when you are writing and you're like really pressing hard and the pen is dying, but you are just trying to make it work. It's like, as Bilbo Baggins would say, you are too little butter scraped over too much bread.
It's like butter scraped over too much bread.
Right? Like that is how you feel. It's the feeling of the very last drops of an ink pen. A greater woman stays cool, but I howl like a wolf at the moon. And to me, that's another witchy metaphor, which I love the imagery of that. And also, I just think that points to like the fact that you are like, it's like primal. Right? Like, but still, like, I know I should be doing a better job of this. I know that I shouldn't be feeling like this right now, but it's primal. I am howling at the moon because I can't control it. I really think that that's kind of like what she is saying with these metaphors. It's like it's uncontrollable. It's like beyond herself. And Rolling Stone actually pointed this out to me, but I do want to mention it because I do think that it is really incredible that she included this in here, and I do believe that it was intentional. This next line she says, and I look unstable. And when we actually listen to it, it almost looks like with that S, she prolongs it to make it sound like a serpent hiss. And I just, I love it. I love it.
And I look unstable.
And I look unstable, gathered with a coven round a sorceress table. A greater woman has faith, but even statues crumble if they're made to wait. I'm so afraid. I sealed my fate, no sign of soulmates. I'm just a paperweight in shades of grayish, spending my last coin so someone will tell me it'll be okay. And then, after this bridge, she does these little ooh, 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 and it reminds me of howling at the moon again, so it's almost like this primal, like she's howling, and I love this song. I love everything about this song. I love the witchy elements of the song. I love the metaphors in the song. If TS12 is literally give me 15 tracks that are varying degrees of this, and I will be eating so well. I will be so happy. I will be so happy. And of course, the witchiest element here of the song. So like the witchy elements have progressed as the song has gone on. But here where she says, gathered with a coven round a sorceress table, a greater woman has faith, but even statues crumble if they're made to wait. I'm so afraid. I've sealed my fate. No sign of soulmates. Just think of that. Right? Like she is stating her deepest, darkest fears to us, and everybody else is just going on as if this isn't happening, as if it's no big deal. But like Taylor Swift is literally telling us her biggest, darkest secrets here. So afraid, I sealed my fate, no sign of soulmates. And this is where I just want to add in that I do think that there is a very real element of Taylor Swift loving the fame that she has, loving her fans, loving the fandom and all of those things, but also very seriously hating some of the aspects that come with it, right? Like we see that in songs like Peace, right? Like, what if I can give you all these things, but I can never give you peace? And here we see that a little bit too, because she's saying, I have all the money in the world, but I want someone who wants to keep me company, you know, like she's saying, I just want someone to love and I don't need all of this money. And I think it's very interesting here that like, it's almost like two sides of a coin. I very much so believe, just based off of context clues and things, that the relationship with Joe was affected by her celebrity and her relationship with fame. And then on top of that, Maddie Healy and her were presumably relatively happy, it seemed like, until her fans wrote the petition asking her to not date him. And then he got death threats, and then he left as well. So it's just, I think that there is a very real conversation to be had about Taylor Swift and her relationship with fame, because while I do think it has given her everything she's ever wanted, I do think she wonders, has it also taken away things that she wanted more? And I don't think she knows. I know we don't know, but it's very interesting. It's a very interesting conversation to have. I'm just a paperweight in shades of grayish, spending my last coin so someone can tell me it'll be okay. And then she continues with the chorus again with, please, I've been on my knees, change the prophecy, don't want money, just someone who wants my company. Please let it once be me. Who do I have to speak to see if they can redo the prophecy? And that is what we see with the prophecy here. It ends in the same witchy metaphors that it started with. It is just a beautiful piece of writing from beginning to end. When she says, I'm just a paperweight in shades of grayish, it reminds me of the Tortured Poets Department music videos, of the grayscale, of the fact that she said in But Daddy, I Love Him, if you just want gray for me. I think that she sees herself in this moment in the shades of grayish. Like, there is no color, there is no excitement, there is nothing to look forward to. And that is where she ends the prophecy. The prophecy is a very low point on the album. Like, it's a very high point because it's fantastic, but it's a low point in terms of Taylor Swift's happiness. Taylor Swift's happiness at writing the prophecy was probably very abysmal. It was probably very low. This is probably a 0 out of 10 on the happiness scale, but it gave us a fantastic song. It gave us a great song. It gave us one of my favorite songs. Let me know what you guys think. Is The Prophecy one of your top tracks from the Tortured Poets Department / the anthology? Full disclosure, The Prophecy was my second most played song in 2024, followed by, it was beaten by Down Bad. Down Bad was my number one. So take from that what you will. I am a Prophecy stan. I am obsessed with this song. It is one of my favorite Taylor Swift songs now. I am absolutely in love with it. Let me know what you guys think. What do you guys think that the prophecy is saying? What do you think some of the metaphors are showing? Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Let me know if there's any specific videos or lyric videos that you want me to go over, and I will see you guys next week. Thanks so much. Bye.